Best way to go live. Best timing. Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to another wonderful sneezy day here at Gamasutra. My name is Bryant Francis, contributing editor to Gamasutra. I am joined here today by two wonderful people, Chris and Alex. Would you please introduce yourself, Chris?
Yeah, hi. I'm Chris Graft, editor-in-chief of Gamasutra.com. I got my collared flannel on today because I was feeling fancy.
Because it's fall, y'all. Alex, would you please introduce yourself?
Hey, as you mentioned, I'm Alex from Gamasutra, and I am also dressed for the fall with a cozy flannel.
Yeah.
That's fleece, isn't it?
I mean, I guess, I don't know. It's soft.
Kind of hybrid.
It's comfy and warm.
I'm wearing a t-shirt because it's California and we're in the middle of a heat wave for the next 2 days because it's just trying to spite us because the earth is all being wrapped up in a fire and is about to end. Speaking of all those things, fall, apocalypses,
flannels.
We are here today playing Slayer Shock, which comes from Minor Key Games, which is two developers, Kyle Pittman and David Pittman. And having spoken with both Pittman brothers this week, getting ready for the stream, this game specifically comes from David Pittman because even though they're working together at Minor Key Games, this apparently was his own project. Just for background on the game in question. As for what it is, well, I'm holding. If you're a TV fan, you're probably realizing this looks really a little familiar, but not all the way familiar. It's kind of like a Buffy the Vampire Slayer themed first-person stealth / like action. Like kind of immersive simmy game. So you play as a vampire hunter working with these three knockoff Buffy characters. I'm sorry, they probably deserve more than that. Going on missions in a, as you can see up top, kind of season / episode format. Doing all this kind of cool stuff that's very Buffy themed. I also say it's explicitly Buffy themed because a few months ago David Pittman blogged with us. With an article about how everything he needed to know about writing video games he learned from pro wrestling, and at the start of that article he mentioned looking to Buffy as an inspiration for this game. So even though this is not licensed, I repeat, it is not a licensed Buffy game, it is in fact very Buffy inspired.
So the interesting thing about this game, though, is it's like the story and the characters are, or some of the characters are procedurally generated.
Yeah. So the way this works is, this is gonna work here is after you I've already done one mission. We've done the tutorial and everything, so we're gonna get going. So here are your three friends. You're not Giles, you're not Xander, and you're not Willow. And you're going out to hunt vampires through the campaign map. And between campaign missions, little story notes will happen that will change the dynamic of the campaigns. Real quick, also cool feature, you can change your color, your characters, because you're never going to see your face, but you're going to see your hand. So you can change those features right here. Really cool feature, I just wanted to bring up real quick. Anyway, but yeah, that's where the procedural generation comes from. So you can see here, these are the neighborhoods, the threat level's going up. Like, it's kind of like XCOM, like you got to protect the countries in order to keep people, not keep access to those territories. And you can see the little rewards there. So there's like reasons to go on each different kind of mission.
Yeah. By the way, you mentioned David Pittman's blog. If you want to look it up, it's called "Everything I Need to Know About Writing Video Games I Learned from Pro Wrestling." So he goes into detail here about how he's trying to figure out how to handle procedural generation or approach it, or and at the same time have this episodic format.
Yeah.
And he wants to be able to not just create perpetual stories, but he also wants to, for example, have reasonably memorable characters.
Yeah.
And still have procedural generation. And he looked at different TV shows, including Buffy, and he also looked at some soap operas, and he didn't really find the game design answers that he was looking for until he examined professional wrestling more closely.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting given David Pittman's background as an AI programmer that he looks to wrestling as a significant like positive inspiration for storytelling, because this is the guy who before he made this game and Eldritch and Neon Struck, he was working on the AI for Bioshock 2, and he led AI for XCOM, not the Firaxis XCOM, but the other one. And like the idea that you would look to a televised like regularly shifting format like wrestling or even like Buffy, as you mentioned, Brian, is super interesting because it's a very programmatic approach to telling stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So just to catch viewers up on where we are right now, we are attempting to. Oh, whoa! That's bad. That's bad.
Some of them do. I mean, the graphics are purposefully, artistically low polygon, and not realistic. But there are definitely some jump scares from these minions and ghosts and stuff that pop out of nowhere. Like that.
It's also really funny that like this door keeps opening on its own because they keep trying to get through it because they know I'm here. And I'm still trying to lock this door. Like, oh, dang it. It's like, see?
Wait, so they can unlock the door and then lock it behind them as they're coming at you?
I guess the door, the lock's just closed on the other side of the door.
Maybe they're just very conscientious.
Very like, oh no.
Yeah, like it's bad neighborhood, you know.
Oh god, but we're on the farm.
You're the home.
But you're the original farm boy, right, Brian? Like,
oh yeah. Well, farms, like, you keep your door, like, what they say around farms is you always keep your doors unlocked until, like, you know, the monsters start coming in.
Oh.
The original farm boy.
The original farm boy, Brian Francis. All the doors are locked in here. That's fun.
Yeah. So the thing with the wrestling influence is this interesting. So, like, first of all, who here watches pro wrestling?
Crickets.
Not since I was a kid.
Yeah, same here. What about you, Bryant?
I watch clips of it, like, on every occasion. I actually have never been enthusiastically into it, but I'll, like, I don't know, like, I'll wind up, like, enjoying some things about it. Like, that'll make me, like, there are things I enjoy about it without wanting to, like, watch live events from it.
It's weird, and maybe it's just because I use Twitter, you know.
Yeah, it's big in video
over the past few years, but yeah, video game people, it seems just like really like journalists and video game fan types really like pro wrestling, and that seems to me it's kind of like, I mean, I watched it when I was a kid, and I don't know, I guess that I should ask somebody who really likes pro wrestling why they like it. But like, if I think it's interesting what Alex said though about how the way that wrestling is structured, say programmatic. Yeah,
it's a fancy word.
Yeah, that is a fancy word. Thank you. He, like David Pittman breaks it down right here. He's kind of thinking about how, like, what is the appeal of pro wrestling, and he's trying to apply that. And it helped me understand not just this game more, but also the appeal of pro wrestling. And one of the issues when you're working procedural generation and the proc gen is supposed to create characters is that you could just end up with forgettable character types, you know. So he was thinking, well, why is a villain in pro wrestling, for example, memorable? Or, you know, why is you know, like the good guys in pro, and it's like one of the things is gimmicks, and that's like an interesting point. So, you know, you've got the Undertaker, who I mean, it's kind of
whose music is that? Is that the Undertaker's music? No, he's dead. He can't be. Yeah, like, oh no, this is bad.
Whoa. Yeah, you're fine. You got this.
You're fine. Yeah, so like going through and basically he created a library of gimmicks that these characters would adopt, and that helps make them, you know, not so unforgettable.
Yeah.
And he talks about repetition and reinforcing characters through repetition in the game. So while it kind of sounds like I don't know, it's hard for you to for me to understand if I'm just reading this headline, everything I need to know about writing video games I learned from pro wrestling, and he actually breaks it down. It's like, geez, like this makes complete sense.
Yeah, I think when I think about wrestling, I think of like a simulated space. That's very much like video games, or for that matter, theater, right? Like wrestling is effectively like I used to think of it as like like action theater for boys, basically, or now young girls. But what I think is interesting about it from a game design perspective is that if you look at like actual theater, most actual plays and stuff have a beginning, middle, and end, and they have it like they're holistic. They finish. Whereas wrestling is like TV, in that like it is designed to continue to go, like for as long as people want to watch.
Soap opera, like.
Yeah, like basically it's like it's designed to no character is set, and no storyline is the end or the peak.
Yeah,
there will constantly be peaks and valleys. Characters will shift alliances. They'll change behaviors. They'll change entire personalities just to keep people interested.
Yeah,
and from a certain perspective, like that's ideal for game design. Because you never, like, not all games have a discrete end or a discrete message. And if you want to keep people engaged, wrestling is a really good way to do that, especially if, like Pitman, you're building a game that's procedurally generated.
Yeah. We're going to talk here real quick about, like, sort of the way that the systems of this game begin interacting at more than just, like, working on the individual levels. So here I finished the objectives. I got some cool stuff. I got a notice saying the vampire threat is decreased in the Howl, but the threat is increased in 2 other towns, which is going to interact. It'll affect... Oh, and here we go. Elsewhere, a neighborhood watch group successfully deters a vampire attack in Grayside, so panic is decreased in the suburbs. These are the little story things that could pop up as the season goes on. And apparently, I read around online. I don't know if we'll see if we get through a full season today or multiple seasons, but they're apparently like 15 to 20 minutes, so... these are the little things that define how a season goes. So now Grayside's vampire attack. This happened randomly. Like, there was no thing I did that affected this. This is the randomness that the game puts on you.
Right.
And as we can see now, our characters have changed position. Apparently, this sometimes happens in relation to the drama that's happening with episodes, like a little system affecting these characters and how they interact.
Did you buy the nail gun yet?
I have not. Should I? I can, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it keeps characters, enemies far away, but it's pretty weak.
Yeah, I mean, I like going in close for the stab. Although I guess you need it for fighting those 100 people. I'm going to use my dust on skills.
Intimate violence.
So Brian, do you feel less panicked, or do you feel like you're experiencing just some algorithm in a procedurally generated universe?
I feel... God, that's a hard question. Hang on, I'm just gonna figure out.
Feels like buying a nail gun.
I feel like being able to carry 3 weapons so I can carry that nail gun.
I think what's so interesting about Pittman's work is that he seems intent on trying to foster experiences that are, I guess, atmospheric and meaningful with a minimum of effort. I mean, this is, he and his brother worked together at Minor Key, but like you said, this is pretty much a one-man affair as far as we can tell. And it's, it's clearly, like, you can tell, but it's also clearly designed to evoke a specific experience and feeling, right? Like you are in this Buffy-esque universe. Maybe you're scared or threatened or whatever. And in trying to convey that with a minimum of tools, like, it's so interesting to me to see whether or not he is successful.
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like, it feels there's something like a theater. There's something like a theater experience to it where I don't feel like this is not the most immersive vampire hunting sim in the world, but the little, like, it's almost like, I don't know, it's like the dressing on a tabletop game or on an escape room. Like, the way all these systems work together just creates enough of a vibe that, like, solving the little like, I feel like I'm hunting vampires, but the way everything feels a little fake is okay, because it's that nice little thing games can do where there's just enough surface to make you interested, just enough texture to make you interested, but not enough to get you out of the mindset of trying to figure this out like a game. Like, it's still a little puzzle box, but it's a very flavored puzzle box.
It's a question of, like, effective distillation, right? Like, when I looked at Neon Struct, I thought that game did a great job of basically duplicating all the pressure and the suspense of a stealth game with a minimum of tools and assets. Like, that's a very Spartan game, but it still is as effective as a stealth game as like a Thief or a Deus Ex. And so I'm curious to know if there's a similar effect here.
Yeah, like so people watching, you should check out. I see Sean Peoples in chat.
Hi, Sean Peoples.
Hi, Sean Peoples.
Hi, Sean Peoples.
He is a game developer. So David Pittman's past work, Minor Key Games' past work, it is really good at working within the constraints they have as a small team, and finding something, a mechanic or a feature, and just really drilling down deep into that, just focusing on that. So, for example, Neon Struct, I didn't play Eldritch, but Neon Struct, it's a stealth, like what Alice is like, through and through, it is a stealth game. And the stealth mechanics are like really nicely refined, they're focused, and there's a very clear game design intent. And it looks like it's the same as far as this goes, like procedurally generated, like episodic, not business, model episodic, but episodic structure to a game.
Yeah, I think it was interesting, and this is something we can't really study in this like relatively short stream. But like what he was writing about in that blog and in his own personal blog is taking, as you mentioned, like taking wisdom, like stealing the ability of wrestling television to build characters through repetition, and then employing that in game design. So like knowing that he has a relatively sparse game, because of the assets and the time he has to put into it. And he was trying to build characters as effectively as possible when you only see them between missions, and I think that's something that's really interesting. And I don't know, like Brian, have you played a lot of this outside of the stream? Like, can you comment on whether that works?
I haven't played a lot outside of the stream, but I did watch Carly play some. Could you repeat the question one more time? Sorry, I was trying to pay attention.
He's focusing on his nail gun.
Yeah. I mean, that's critical. That's key. I was just pointing to, like, one of the interesting things about the Pittman blog that Chris brought up and was talking about is that in studying wrestling, he wrote about trying to get good advice on building characters through repetition with like a minimal amount of screen time, because so much of the game you're spent, like in so many games, you spend so much of the player's time like putting them out by themselves.
Yeah.
And so if you want to build a character's if you want to build a character effectively, like you need to do it in between missions, or like with a very minimal amount of storytelling effort required. And that to me is very interesting, but we can't really see it here because we're
only going to be playing for an hour at most. Yeah.
I
think what I remember I was watching her play, and what she said was like the way the little plot things like wind up building up and the way the systems start working together. What like the raw, like if we follow the model of the soap opera to where it leads, the challenge is, and it's almost a Marvel Comics thing too in DC Comics. Like you're trying to keep up, you're trying to like keep track of all the threads, and to a certain extent that's a good thing, where in a game like this you can where you can just like do it all in a couple hours. But like in soap operas, this is obviously a thing that spans years, and if a game or show has the ability to do it right, they can sort of make some payoffs that are years in the making. I guess they're trying it right now with the Marvel movies, like where they try to release a whole movie that's building off the conflict of almost every other movie leading up to it. That was Civil War. And whether that worked or not, I don't know. We're the art and business of games, not movies. But but like that's what we're going for here. That's what we're talking about. And it seemed like watching her stream, she was keeping track of it pretty well. Ooh.
How's that nail gun working out for you, by the way?
It's working out okay. Nail gun's working.
Look at
that. We're gonna go back to the old-fashioned mode for a second. I'm gonna get these hostages. Oh no, the hostages died. Oh shit. Uh-oh.
Bryant.
Still,
Bryant.
Ooh.
So how does that affect? What does that influence in the game then?
I don't know. Well, we won the mission, so I didn't get any bonus goodies for rescuing them. Sean Peoples points out in the chat that the nail gun is indeed vicious. Just calling that up from the chat real quick. And here's
I was
again.
probably just using it wrong.
Yeah. EMT Leet says that the dying splash sound is amazing. It's pretty, like, this game feels good. like Minor Key, I guess, must have like nailed. Like they know how to make the interactions feel good.
You were just gonna say something about they nailed the interactions.
They nailed the interactions. I hope that went through the mic.
From across the room.
Really quick. So Mindy's busy with exams.
Okay.
So that's we don't know much else right now. We know Mindy's. Who the hell are you? Giles, did you get a haircut? Wait. Oh no, they just moved around.
I just want to say these are like.
Wait.
It's sort of unfair to ask Brian to build deep, meaningful relationships with these characters while he's trying to play on stream. I'm sure if you were playing by yourself, you would know exactly who Jason is, what he's doing there.
I'd be romancing Aaron. No, that would be wrong. He's the mentor. I'd be romancing Paul right here. Yeah, I think Jason's new because she's busy. Mindy's busy with exams, so Jason's taking over as. Oh no, wait, no.
Jason's
she's the
here
researcher.
for
Oh, here's an interesting thing because Mindy's busy with exams, which is so high school, right?
So high school.
So high school.
So high school. I can't talk to the researcher right now. I can't upgrade things that I need her to upgrade. So I'm going to focus on getting trained in. I want Dompier's Curse, and I heard that if you get Power Slide, this is like just really awesome. There aren't going to be many unaware vampires, so I'm not super concerned about that. I'm not very good at the stealth in this game. Apparently, I was reading some reviews of like of the upper level stuff. Hang on, I'm going to see what he's got for sale. I don't know for these. Jump higher. Deal more with sneak attacks. Alright, I'm going to get the jump higher one next time around. Apparently, on the harder difficulty modes, the stealth is absolutely essential, and you have to really figure it out. But we're playing on normal here because I'm not good at video games. That's a lie. I'm great at Overwatch, guys.
So I think it's interesting. So if you look at that pop-up where Mindy is away at exams, so you can't do a certain thing in the interface. Like I don't know if that happens to everyone or if that's
it does happen to everyone. It's random chance. Maybe not like in the first season for sure.
But eventually, it's yeah okay. So like depending on how that happens to you and where like that could totally have an effect on your story as a player, right? So you're playing this game and you're getting all set for something, and then like you really need Mindy to be there for your next mission, and she's gone.
Yeah.
And then you have to adapt, or you fail horribly and you blame it all on Mindy. Like I could totally see you sharing that story, and you know, from the outside, not knowing what this game is, like I couldn't necessarily tell if that story was a scripted event that like took a number of narrative designers and writers like a month to prepare, or whether that's just a random chance that happens as part of the algorithmic generation.
Yeah.
And there, I think what's so interesting is like what in game design, like to what extent do you need to tell a player a story, and to what extent can you rely upon them to tell their own story?
Yeah. Well, why don't we use that opportunity? Oh, we found your toilet, Alex.
Yeah, that's not my
Alex's
toilet. No, what?
We found the toilet that you wanted me to find.
You found a toilet, and I'm very excited because I noticed somewhere on Twitter someone highlighted that I believe it's the toilet paper roll is something you can fix.
Look at it, Alex. Look upon my works, ye mighty, and despair.
I'm not sure what's going on there. By fixing it, are you just flipping it? What?
F for fix.
Oh.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you. This is amazing.
Excellent.
Oh God, this is so wrong right here. This is wrong. This is right. This is wrong.
Yeah.
This is right.
Wrong,
Fight me,
yes.
commentators. See, because like for years you've been able to flush toilets in games, but you've never been able to fix the toilet paper.
That's got to be a first.
I locked this door.
Brian, like, let's get a peek into your psyche. Which way did you flip it before you?
This is correct.
All
Right
right,
here.
all right. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, so I think I was right before we discovered the amazing toilet, the procedurally generated amazing toilet. I was just gonna say that question because we spent this last week. Ooh, that's bad. I don't want.
Can we just talk for a minute? That actually, what was amazing was the bathroom. The toilet is pretty standard. It's a pretty amazing video game bathroom, a new level of video game bathrooms, and that could take us somewhere of discussing like what's up with video game bathrooms. Okay, well, all right. Well, we can just never mind. Just talk about this instead.
Yeah, we can come back to video game.
Hang on. Yeah, we'll come back to the bathroom in a sec. Hang on. Let me solve this
That
situation.
guy seems
here.
really big.
He
I don't
broke
think
through the
he can fit up
door.
the stairs.
He broke through this door. Look at this door. It was here. Now it's gone. That's not fair. Wow. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, a little traumatized there from that.
So clearly, the sparse design has some sort of effect on it.
I'm wondering if the more you play, like one of the things that Pittman talked about in making these procedurally generated characters memorable is repetition.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if like Mindy, like, you know, that's just one of her things. She studies a lot, or
Well, she's
then,
supposed to
then
be
you
like
kind
the
of
nerd, so
and then you like the player will pick that up. Oh, like Mindy's studying again, and you know it's unavailable or whatever. But yeah, that's one of the things, like gimmicks, and then on top of that, and again, Pittman was influenced by the way pro wrestling is presented. Just repetition. They get a gimmick or they get some kind of characterization for themselves, and they just milk it dry.
yeah. Those are all very astute observations about it. More another bathroom.
I don't think you were listening to me. I think that you were just kind of excited again for to do this. You're like,
Fixing the toilet
yes.
paper.
Right?
There's
Is
an
this your
achievement.
gimmick?
This is my gimmick. I fix toilet paper. I don't know what my gimmick is, man. I'm not a pro wrestler. I was gonna say we were talking earlier about the narrative. We were talking about like what needs to be slaved over as a narrative designer and what needs to be like what can be left to procedural generation. And we spent this last week emailing about Westworld, haven't we? We're like, I think everyone here's caught up to episode 2, right?
Yeah.
And we talked
Yeah.
about this in our lead this morning. So.
But we've got some people who are watching this right now. and
yeah,
they
so
might not
spoiler
be.
warning.
No. I don't think we should talk spoilers.
We can
But I
avoid
think
spoilers.
that we can talk
but
about the broad concepts.
Yes.
Of
Yes.
Westworld.
Yes.
Also, you're one episode ahead of me, so
Yes.
I don't
Well,
get
well,
into
whose
that.
fault is that?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's how can I talk about this? How can we even talk about this without?
Well, you can talk about. Well, I think there's enough general things in the pilot and stuff like that deal with.
Yeah. Well, like this is what stuck out to me and it made me feel uncomfortable. And actually, if you go on Gamasutra right now, you can see you can
What made
read
Chris uncomfortable?
our editorial roundtable. I make myself feel uncomfortable, but when I'm watching the show, it was just there are some parts where you go into this Westworld place and it's basically a theme park full of robots, and they all have their same routine every day, just like some video games. It's kind of like if you're dropped into Dark Souls, how enemies spawn in the same place and they act the same way. And you go, and these people are in Westworld, and basically they can just act with impunity if they want. If they want to abuse, these robots that are extremely 100% lifelike, pretty much, they can do that. They can just like blast them in the head. So it's just like there's a part in the first episode that just really resonated with me as somebody who plays video games and does play. I see what you're doing. A lot of a lot of the games that we play are violent. And a lot of them are increasingly more realistic. So when somebody in Westworld just blasts a very human-like robot in the head, and just acts really excited and giddy about it and proud of what they did and the effect that they had on the storyline in Westworld, then that makes me feel I can relate to that. Pulling off a headshot that takes a lot of skill, or executing a fatality at the exact right moment, and then you get this giddy thing. And with Westworld, it's just the logical end to this pursuit of realism and violence that a lot of games violence
these violent delights that have
violence.
violent
Yeah,
ends.
Yeah. I mean, that's. I mean, I think it's. I do kind of I did memify that. These violent delights have violent ends. Shakespeare quote. But that is so apt in that, and it just really is such. I feel like a direct call out to interactive media right now. Just like these headshots, there is a trajectory right now, and the ultimate is a Westworld. You look at it and you look at the people who are in that theme park, and they, and they're having fun just blasting robots with impunity, or abusing them in various, disgusting ways. And you kind of, you just wonder, like, is that the end game? And I wonder as video games continue to get more realistic and the sensory feedback visually, tactily, as that keeps on what is that, using the wrong word, or are you laughing?
Tactile feedback, I think. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, but like,
not just to keep it local to things that are happening in games right now. I think I played in raw data. I was shocked by how weird it is to use those hand controllers to use guns in VR, because it's not the same as like using guns out here in these digital games.
So when does the sadism, the interactivity that is centered on violence, when does that give way to more empathetic scenarios?
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting question, and I think that Westworld is such an interesting show right now, particularly with VR, because VR just supplants reality. And it'll just be interesting to see if the ultimate world is one of violence that lets people act like violently, with no repercussions whatsoever, or is the ultimate something that helps us understand one another. I guess that would be kind of a boring Westworld, right? Where you just walk around and, hey, cowboy, how are you doing?
There's like literal model United Nations where everyone is just there to like shake hands and like really come to an accord.
I was going to say two things about what you said, Chris. One was like, you said he got giddy because of the headshot thing, and you were thinking about that yourself. I know you enjoyed Doom this year and how good it felt to kill.
That's demons. So yeah,
it's different.
Yeah, well, we'll still let's even say Call of Duty. Like, we'll just say Call of Duty.
That's robots. Sorry, go ahead.
Gears of War, also robots. How can you kill a human these days in a video game? Overwatch, also robots.
Okay. Anyway,
yeah. But the other thing was that person was giggling because he just interrupted this dramatic gunfight that kind of jackass narrative designer in the episode had set up, thinking he was such a genius, and the player just sort of walked in and kicked the table over and then giggled about it and then thought he was super special for doing that, like without even knowing that he really like made someone's day real bad. I think a lot of game designers were chuckling at that because it seems so familiar. I think it's interesting that one half. I'm sorry, not very professional of me. Not very professional vampire hunter here.
Yeah, you got this. You're fine.
Oh,
Steve Boost says you can't shoot through the fence.
I was trying to do that earlier.
Yeah, Brian. So I think you and I were thinking in parallel on this. So I'm just gonna jump in.
Go for it. As I shout like a little child.
No, so Chris brought up Westworld, and here we are playing this game that's like procedurally generated, does interesting things with sparse narrative design. Yeah. And in Westworld, as you mentioned, there's several points where characters, human who appear to be human characters, will sort of take joy in murdering other characters who appear to be human, because those characters are in fact robots who are trying to offer them quests. Like, they're basically like quest givers. And so the humans have seen these quests before, who are playing in Westworld, and they're like, well, I don't want to deal with this or whatever, so I'm just gonna, the fastest way to avoid this is just to shoot this man and walk away.
Yeah.
And then later in another part of the episode, you're right, there's a narrative designer who tries to pitch this amazing new quest.
Real quick, I'm referring to in episode 1, the narrative designer trying to clean up like a need to pull a bunch of models out, so we need kill a bunch of hosts. So you're talking about a second scenario, which is a big spoiler, just a heads up.
Try to be vague.
Yeah. So there. Well, I wasn't going to talk to them. All I'm saying is this designer goes into a meeting to pitch his grand quest storyline and talk about this amazing narrative he's put together, and how meaningful it's going to be for all the players. And then the boss of the operation kind of walks in and tears them a new one. It's like, I don't see anything in your storyline in this amazing game narrative you crafted. I don't see anything anyone wants. I just see what you want.
Yeah.
Like every player comes to Westworld to find something that's unique to them.
Yeah.
And like whatever they find in your game is what they find. You can't tell them, like, you can't give them what they want. Only they can give them what they want. And so you can look at a game like Slayer Shock and see that like philosophy of design embodied.
Yeah.
Because this is a game that is clearly designed to allow players to tell their own stories. And so you put this up against like any horror game. I got a Thief or something, which isn't really a horror game, but it's a first-person immersive sim in the dark, and you sneak around. And like that has a very clear story.
This is new.
And the question for, I think, game designers is like, is the time and effort that goes into that game as effective at creating a narrative experience as this game is?
This is new. We're gonna meet North the Swift. You need to put on a shirt, man.
And we recommend HBO's Westworld to anyone with an interest in game design because it's super interesting.
Uh-oh.
Excited about the way games are made.
Oh. Discover Big Bad has been complete. Speak to Mindy to begin new research. We have discovered that the vampires are being led by one big bad parentheses S parentheses colon North the Swift. So more procedural generation things here, just to build on what that procedural talk was. Like we've met the big bad in a dream. There's one of them. Their name is North the Swift, and they need to put on a shirt. I think these are interesting procedural things. Back to Westworld real quick. My last thought about that in relation to, it's interesting that the show argues that the inevitable video game, the Anthony Hopkins led video game. Mindy finished her exams, thank God, so she's back. Oh look, she's talking about how she was busy with the exams. There we go. Proto Westworld right there. What I was going to say was
playing games and talking is hard.
It's so hard. I was thinking about some designers. I saw some community people pointing out that Westworld isn't like the perfect video game. It's a video game where they've just intentionally flipped off or turned off like all moderation stuff. Like there's only a few pieces of there's only a few barriers and not much of a fail state. There's not many barriers on you getting killed or hurt, which is something that happens in normal video games. There's not many barriers on what you can do aside from what another human might convince you to do or not do, your own conscience. But that's not necessarily even how open world games are made. Like we're talking about, like Red Dead Redemption got announced. Red Dead Redemption got announced this week, so everyone's thinking about going back to the Red Dead Westworld, if you will. But open world games.
Sorry, go ahead, finish your thought.
I need to finish the thought in order to make the thought. Yeah. So open world games will put these kind of restrictions, though. Like Assassin's Creed games are very popular, very like enjoyed, and like show a lot of good design, but they do not let you kill citizens randomly. Like fun, meaningful experiences with involving violence can be made and can be like and are desired, I think, that don't necessarily involve that Westworld. It's interesting, just like the characters of Westworld and the drama of Westworld seems very interested in this, like, of course we're going to give them all the power in the world that they want, but that isn't even necessarily how many game designers think. Quick shout out to ZoomX, who says they've never seen a stream before. What? We've done this only like 10 times. But yeah, welcome ZoomX. Thank you for joining our stream. And Chris, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah. The thing about fail states, and so I think that's a good point, first of all, that even though we are making a lot of comparisons to like video games, game design, open world video games, and when we're talking about Westworld, it's not really, I think it's more like a theme park type thing, or like trying to recreate just like straight up world recreation for visitors, where we want to call that. So but I do want to talk about fail states because I don't think that necessarily makes Westworld, I don't necessarily think that that's something that makes it less of a video game. I don't think that's one of the things.
Right.
Like fail states can they can, like in video games nowadays, they exist and they don't exist.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying though, and so I guess as we talk about Westworld and video games, there's definitely elements of both, just like theme park type things, and of also like game development, design, and things like that.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing here?
Getting ready for another mission. I bought some upgrades, invested in some research. Got my little vampire hunting crew.
You got a little
pumped up.
posse there, yeah.
Yeah, my posse. Oh yeah, and I got this. Check this out. Hell yeah. Buffy's. I think Buffy could actually jump really high. So.
Oh, that's a
boom.
That's an upgrade.
Boom. This, yeah, I love it when I can do this in games. I love high jumps and double jumps.
I love when I jump in video games too.
Yeah, Mario, right? Anyway, oh, I can also do this now. I forgot to
Jumping and shooting. That's basically video games.
Boom.
Yeah. So the shooting thing, in video games.
The shooting.
Yeah, I mean, like people who read Gamasutra know that one of the reasons that there's so many shooters is that it is a mechanic that there's been so many of them done, and like they've developed so many games about shooting that it's an easy mechanic to implement relatively for game developers. When you start talking about having AI that's like basically going to be a chatbot that recognizes what you're saying and reacts appropriately, that's more difficult.
You're thinking about Event Zero there.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's an example of one that's not shooter focused. So when sorry, I'm bringing up Westworld again. It's kind of like I feel like the trajectory, like if people, if game design just remains hung up on the ability to put like a bullet from like on one point in the map, then that thematically could just come out in more Westworld type scenarios. I'm not exactly like sure what I'm trying to say there, but it's like I just think it'll be interesting to see when, like, as VR gets bigger, I'm hoping that we're going to see some more explorations with some deeper things than interactivity through violence.
I think you're saying these violent delights have violent ends.
They do. Now, all this said, like I'm not like I still have, like you said earlier, I've been playing like a lot of like the 2016 Doom lately, and I have a lot of fun with kind of like shooter horde.
Oh no, I died.
On fail state, on like in VR, but I don't know. I'm just hoping that things kind of can. I hope that we see new kinds of ways to interact. Basically.
Yeah, it's tricky because, and we talked about this before. Like any game where you are shooting something or anything is effectively like to my mind like a puzzle game. Like it's just a real time puzzle game. Like if I like watching Brian play. When he's sneaking around caves and like trying to pick off bad guys, like to me that's just like triangulating the distance and trying to figure out ways so that a certain line intersects here but doesn't intersect there, so that they die and you don't. And the entire idea of like violence or pain or death is sort of out of the equation when I'm playing these games moment to moment. And that you're right, that like there's a lot of things to unpack there. But in terms of like just pure game design, like it's so satisfying and simple to design puzzles around connecting points via gunfire or via like 3D movement jumping that I don't know that we'll ever see game design really go far away from it. I think you're right, it's much harder to design a game that is challenging and satisfying and engrossing through just like AI design or conversation design or environment design. An example like Dear Esther or something. So.
I think the best answer I've got is to that is that The only thing I'll point out is that I don't know if anyone could have predicted necessarily that we would have even gotten to this point. If Chris talked about like now, it's easy to make shooting happen because we understand how to do ray casting really well. We understand how to do ray casting really well because this was what people were working with in the 90s. It's kind of like one of those things where like you learn where like history is inevitable, like the kind of design we learn isn't inevitable. It's interesting because like even if you take like the popularity of tabletop games before, I only have a really quick time to talk about this subject. Sorry. If you look at the history of game design as a whole and like look back to tabletop games and early game design, like half the reason that's really popular is because of like the wargaming stuff that came up in the 40s. You know, H.G. Wells. And that sort of thing, which led eventually. Oh crap! So like I don't know, like what, like the addition is things could change because of things we're not ready for because big changes have big changes have little beginnings and these violent lights have violent ends.
Yeah, so Slayer Shock seems cool.
Yeah, Slayer Shock's cool. Let's completely change the subject real quick. Let's talk about Halloween, because we're playing this game because it's Halloween. I really wanted to play a Halloween game. And this town
and here you are.
Is very Halloween themed.
You're doing it.
Look at these.
Can we just talk about how I'm really surprised that game developers haven't like jumped harder on the seasonal holiday bandwagon? Like you have Costume Quest out of Double Fine, and like some Flash games where you roll penguins down an ice chute or something, and that's kind of it. Like,
I asked some developers about this a long time ago. I actually don't think it was for Gamasutra. I think it was for my old gig at when I was still working for Jace Hall. And part of the reason is, I mean, like if you look at like the production model for a holiday movie or a holiday other thing
it's a hard ship date. I mean, like,
it's a hard ship date and a short tail.
Can't move Halloween.
Yeah. It's a hard ship date, a short tail, and your audience like was only interested once a year. But games still find ways to do it with like the live event system of games. Like, Overwatch is having a Halloween event right now, and everyone wants Witch Mercy's here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, definitely, probably the best way to do that is updating your game that stands by itself with fun, like, seasonal themes. But I was always surprised, when you look at, like, Steam sales charts and stuff and you talk to devs, like, it's like something like Skyrim continues to sell really well, despite the fact that it's 5, I think, years old. And part of that is because of the support, and part of that is because of the community. And, like someone will say, oh, I'm playing Skyrim, and then like on a message board, someone else will reinstall it, and someone else will buy it for the first time. And they'll buy it when it's on sale. So a game like Costume Quest, it seems to have a relatively short tail. But that tail is reinvigorated every year.
Yeah.
Clockwork. And also, like, above and beyond the typical reinvigoration that devs see during a Steam sale or something, like you have this built-in thing like, oh, it's Halloween, so I'm gonna play Costume Quest.
Yeah, and another interesting thing is that, well, like if you look at where like other media like relies on these big holiday things, they also rely on it because like it means if you make like say a Christmas movie, it can be played on TV every year to make ad revenue off of TV. So there's like the long tail there. Yeah. Sort of enters another market, even though like we'd think of it as the same market, but if you really got nitty gritty with the granular details of it, you'd realize it's not. Like, but so holiday games I think they're rad. I love Costume Quest and I love the Halloween mood of this game because it makes me. I mean, Halloween's great, and I like things that are Halloweeny, and I also love, and I think also. I think it just opens some doors thematically for what you want to work on. It can make some compelling games. Like, I still really want a game that's as interested in, like, oh shoot, this is gonna go so south. No, it didn't. Like one of the interesting things I learned in college was that A Christmas Carol, which is that story, we hear like every freaking year in some form. Oh shoot. Was actually when Charles Dickens was like really angry with how she just ran to open the door. I don't know why she did that. That was funny.
I just want to apologize because I forgot to plug in my laptop. So you guys keep having this deep discussion, and I'll be just.
All right. So one thing that interested me about A Christmas Carol was that Charles Dickens didn't just make it because he really wanted to tell the heartwarming story of the joy of Christmas. Oh. You can't see my face right now, but I'm just covering my mouth. Oh God. Oh. Oh God.
Do you become Minnie Mouse when when
I
you
guess.
screw up in video
I guess
games.
apparently.
Yeah, so that was a hostage.
That was a hostage.
Okay.
I just get. Wow.
Well, yeah, fix the toilet paper.
I'm just gonna.
Yeah, you missed it, Alex. Brian
I
just
murdered this
was talking
poor
about
woman.
A Christmas Carol, and then he just turned the corner and murdered a hostage. And then he
Merry
went in the
Christmas.
bathroom, and then he fixed the toilet paper roll.
Gotta stay true to the brand.
It's kind of a fun exercise to think of, like, you know how there are Christmas movies that take place during Christmas, like Die Hard?
Yeah.
Like how many Christmas games are there, or Halloween games?
So few. I was gonna real quick. I just finished the thought I was on before I committed murder. I was gonna say, geez, I can't fuck this up now. There are only two more hostages. I was gonna say, there is a the reason Christmas Carol exists is because Charles Dickens really was mad at how London was treating its poor, and he wrote this giant thing about for it. Like that's the point of a Christmas Carol, is that it's like stop treating the poor so shitty. And that actually led to a giant social movement that came with his publication of it, because he was like doing readings and like, okay, don't murder the hostage, don't murder the hostage, don't murder the hostage.
Yep.
So that's where, like, you know, we see the story every year. There's the Disney version of it. There's the Muppet version of it. Like, and yet it came because it came into existence because Charles Dickens was really focused on something in his world and turned something that wasn't really like quite the national holiday as we know it into an event like at the center of his story, and thus culture changed around it, which is really cool. And like you'd hope games can find their way to do that. I'm not saying like Epic Games needs to really work on making that like socially impactful Christmas game, but that's just like for some context when we're talking about that. I think it's important to talk about how like one of the biggest stories of all time came because the guy was trying to make some social change.
It's hard to think of a game that's had significant social change. Maybe I'm just like totally blanking. Like maybe Tetris changed the way people build walls or something, but I can't.
I'd argue, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'd say Pokemon. I'd say they're like the changes are not what we normally recognize as social change, but I'd say Pokemon, Mario, Doom.
See, that's weird because like the message in Pokemon to me is that like animal fighting is okay.
That's
so
because,
I don't know if I would want
because
that to have social effect.
Well,
but
I don't think that any of like those games
not on the level of
they do like affect society like in certain ways, but I think like more what we're talking about or what you're talking about with Christmas Carol is just purposeful, like you're trying to bring awareness to an issue to affect social change.
There's a lot of big, and I should also point out that
and there are a lot of games like that that do have really good social commentary. I mean, you can like Games for Change is one festival that highlights a lot of these and the people who make the games, but they're typically not commercial games. They're not something that you're going to see sell like millions of units.
Although I have to say, like this brings to mind, you know, I am playing a bit of Mafia 3 right now, which is Hangar 13's debut game. It just came out, and I would say it's gotten pretty good, like mainstream press coverage. You know, like a lot of people talking about that game. It's got a lot of crimes and violence and stuff. But one of the things it also does is the lead character is African American, and he like they model in a police visibility meter that is actually separate from like this character. As you walk around this open world, there's a visual indicator when police are looking at you and how deeply they're scrutinizing you. And if it gets to the top, that doesn't necessarily mean you're in trouble. It just means that if you do anything, the police will definitely come bust you. If you do anything wrong, like it seems like even if you speed sometimes, or if you like run into another car, which is crazy, I know, but in a video game, if you smash into another car, the cops will get on you. And the idea that a video game is modeling through its systems the way that maybe certain people in society feel under extra scrutiny by the police force is really intriguing. And it's not at all called out as like this is a social thing. It's just part of the game design. Yeah. But it raises awareness to the fact that even if you playing the game go out in the city and don't feel like the cops are watching you. A lot of people do, and it can be very distracting, and it can really affect the way you behave in subtle ways.
Yeah. So games even big games can do it. That I think is the big takeaway.
I mean, it's.
I don't want to say like they did that on purpose. It had that effect on them.
No, I think that they probably were thinking of that, like maybe like think about like racial profiling in that period of time that Mafia 3 is happening. Right. You know? Like I think that was I assume that was purposeful. But like I'm skeptical, and I haven't played Mafia 3, but I'm skeptical of a mainstream game that needs to adhere to mainstream game mechanics and mainstream tropes to really say something that is going to have that's going to try to effect social change and things like that. It's like the reason why a lot of these games come out of like academia is because they don't have to pay any adherence to game mechanics. They don't have to be a shooter. So like Mafia 3, it's a commentary about like what it was like, being a person of color in the civil rights era. Sure, but there's this huge challenge for the people who are making the game from a narrative standpoint, from a gameplay standpoint, is that it's a shooter. Like the interactions are hinged on, again, I haven't played Mafia 3, but I believe it's a shooter. So all of these interesting themes that they want to convey, they are they're held back because it has to be a certain kind of game for a certain kind of audience. So there's that conflict, and I don't need to tell Gamasutra readers about all that, because it's a challenge. I do respect when people try to in these big budget games try to convey something like that, but
I think you're absolutely right. When Brian talks about Charles Dickens wanting to change society or to impact meaningful change, certainly big budget products cannot by their nature really be bold about that, because they're trying to recoup all the money they're spending on making those games. So they can't it's an understandably risk averse business. And so that's why I'm super glad that academic game funding is available and academic game design programs exist and seem to be flourishing, because without the pressure to succeed commercially, you have a lot more freedom to use game design tools and techniques to tell interesting, meaningful, potentially radical stories.
Really quick, Zoomix wants to ask, what do we think about extra level themed for Halloween? They talk about Legend of the Brofist having some kind of Halloween themed level. I haven't played that game specifically, so I can't quite think about that one, Zoomix. I think that's a really interesting thing, because if you think about live games, it's kind of like the live games thing we talked about earlier, where if you're working on a live game, you can more easily drop in some kind of DLC or free expansion or whatever that gets to the holiday themes and brings some quests in and gets players to interact with some cool content. If you're shipping a game that only gets shipped and then maybe it's got 1 or 2 DLC units, I think of games... Weirdly, I'm going to think of a really weird game, which is Sonic Adventure 2, but it has an entire pumpkin zone. But what makes me think about that is that the pumpkin zone is a really weird zone. It's really cool, and it helps the identity of that game and the overall longevity of that game, but it still doesn't come across as very themed for Halloween, even though clearly the designers at Sonic Team at the time were we are all about pumpkins today. We're just going to wake up.
On consoles, I'm actually glad you brought that up, because we got to wrap it up here in a minute or so.
This is good note to end on.
But clock, internal clock based. This is my thing for an internal clock inside of a console.
Oh yeah, like Animal Crossing, yeah.
Yeah, and they'll throw a birthday party, or they'll be Christmas themed or Halloween themed. And remember Christmas nights, right?
Yeah.
Try to forget it, but yeah.
Yeah. So that came on a separate disc, but yeah, sure. I think that it's again the whole Halloween theme thing would be really risky, as, or like a holiday themed, like your whole game is based on one holiday that happens once on the calendar every year, is, I mean, that's giving yourself a hard ship date there.
It's risky, yeah, for sure.
But then again, aren't all games risky?
Yeah. So
That's a
yeah.
good
Well,
hit.
I mean these violent delights have violent.
And these violent ends are coming to us right now. All right.
Right.
I'm
So
Brian.
the game again.
The game again is Slayer Shock from Minor Key Games.
Okay.
And I'm Bryant Francis, contributing editor for Gamasutra.
I am Chris Graft, editor-in-chief Gamasutra.
And I'm Alex Waro, the other editor at Gamasutra.
Nice. This has been lovely. Thank you all for coming and asking questions. Please remember to subscribe to our channel for notifications when we're going live. We do regular streams with the game developers. We check out cool and interesting games. We talk about the game news and game design. So be sure to check out our next stream, which we're coming back this Friday with something, hopefully some VR. See you then. Bye.
Bye.